Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the 2ThirdsPodcast. We're so glad that you're here. Man, it is going to be a big one today. It is our Avengers Age of Ultron spoiler episode. We review it, kind of talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, things that were interesting. That's really all this episode is. So if you have not seen Avengers Age of Ultron, stop what you're doing right now. Leave that infant home alone. Who cares if the oven's not left on? You get in your car, you drive to your nearest theater, you pay your $1,800, and you get into that theater and sit in your seat with your popcorn, and you watch Avengers Age of Ultron. Please don't leave your child. That's neglect, and I will not be held responsible for that. So, yes, so Avengers Age of Ultron, we went and saw it twice. We actually recorded this 2 weeks ago when Avengers first came out. We did it the Saturday after it came out, and I started working on it and editing it. And the thing about this episode is we spent so much time talking about the movie that I actually have to cut this episode into 2 parts just to make it short enough for us to, be able to listen to it and not be like a movie. It's literally like our recording is almost as long, if not longer, than the movie itself. So the first part of this podcast is going to be about just the main characters, the original Avengers that we're familiar with, and talking about them and what we liked about them and what we didn't like, and we talk about the Hulk, we talk about Thor, we talk about Black Widow and Captain America and Iron Man, those people that you're familiar with. Shane actually comes up with a really interesting analogy for the Hulk. So if you're, I would suggest that part of the podcast is a PG-13 section. So some parental guidance will be needed for it. So I'm just warning you. So you have been warned. And so we're just going to get right into it. I don't have a whole lot to say. I want to say a lot because I like talking, but we present to you the first part of the Avengers Age of Ultron spoiler episode, episode 3, part 1, here now. So please listen to it, and we'll catch you on the other end. Or I will, not we. This is dumb. Listen to it.
Okay. Dollar is what I need.
Hey.
There's only 2. It's,
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like bump.
It is only 2.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Y'all heard Green Lights or something?
By Aloe Black?
Yeah.
No. I've only heard...
Oscar's ringtone.
No, I've only heard...
Hey, Oscar, if you're listening to this, you're dumb.
But LeeAnne loves you.
I've only heard...
Like in a dumb kind of way.
Gosh,
like you
dang
see
it.
like a mentally
I need
handicapped
$1.
person on the street and you kind of help them out. That kind of thing where it's like, you're nice to like help out for a couple of minutes, but then I want to leave and go back to a normal life. That's you, Oscar.
I've only heard
Anybody
I
else
need
have those
$1.
thoughts? I hope so. No, it's not just me. What? All you heard is dollar? You missed all the good stuff? I'm hearing that stuff. There's me, right there. I'm going to lean back. What about here?
I've only heard I need $1 and I'm the man. He did that.
Okay.
That
I
one
haven't
song.
heard I'm the
Yeah,
Man.
it's pretty much the melody from
You can tell
your song.
anybody.
I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man.
Hey.
Yes, there's a
They
hey,
just
hey
say
in it.
hey and everything.
So,
Yeah, so there shouldn't be any red lines on this one, right?
there might be. Probably me. I don't know.
Probably if...
Yeah, if you don't, it's fine. We'll just make fun of you during the recording about it.
Well, yeah, so then I'll mute it because I don't want the attention.
Unlike your cats.
There was no red line on that one.
Oh, is it fixed? Well, I kind of looked away.
Yeah,
There
he
was no
wasn't,
red
like,
line.
facing right at it.
I'm
Oh,
like,
we'll say it again, but facing.
cats!
Yeah, there's some red.
Barely.
It's
though.
okay if
Red.
there's red.
This is solid, though. Yeah, I mean, the last one didn't
They
sound
weren't
bad
that
at
bad.
all.
They actually sounded
Yeah, I
too
didn't
Like-
notice
quiet.
it.
Even if you adjusted it, I didn't notice.
I did a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, it wasn't... Because sometimes you can, right?
What? You can tell?
Like, notice when there's adjustments.
Yeah.
Especially, like, on wrestling. Like, when there's a bad wrestler, but they want him to be a good wrestler on SmackDown. You're like, no. They're cheering, I swear. They don't look like they're moving, but they're cheering. Avengers was good.
It was good.
It was the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. But that's me.
It was the best Marvel movie up to this point.
Yes.
You think it's better than Guardians?
Yeah, I don't see the argument of Guardians being the best movie.
I know.
I think it was a good movie, but it is
Winter Soldier still was better.
at best fourth place.
So what's your, if you had top 5?
Top 5 actually would be
Starting lowest to the top. Or like
Okay.
least to
what's
best.
number 5?
number 5 is Guardians.
Okay.
Number 4
Really?
is Iron Man. Number 3 is Avengers. Number 2 is Winter Soldier. Number 1 is Age of Ultron.
Okay. That's surprising. I don't know. I feel
could
like
go with that.
Guardians would be higher for me. I think
I'd just switch Iron Man and Guardians. But
Yeah.
I read Guardians. Not that one, but I've
Mhm.
read some of it, so I was a bit more connected with it.
It's not a Marvel movie to me yet.
Mhm.
And that may be the thing. I'm not invested in Star-Lord. I'm not invested in Drax or Rocket Raccoon. The one I'm most familiar with is Rocket Raccoon,
Mhm.
honestly. And so
Yeah.
it's really good, but
Yeah, I think for you and that's where the regular movie audience and I think comic book audience are different, is you're more interested in the continuity of everything,
right.
and everybody else is interested in the moment by moment. They're interested in the movies, you're interested to see how they tie in.
But what makes Avengers good? Like, what makes these movies good
Yeah,
is the continuity.
right.
Like, if you take away the continuity, you take away the movies.
I don't know about that.
But how would we know what Infinity Stones and Thanos are without Guardians?
Thor. It seems like Thor is their biggest, like,
But before this
liaison.
movie, we wouldn't have. Guardians would have been our really only sort of connection.
okay, yeah, you're right. Thinking not as a
After,
comic
yes.
book character,
Right.
or a comic book fan.
Mhm.
I mean, again, Thor, really.
Yeah.
Because Dark World had that, like, hall of, like, famous things.
Mhm.
And, like, there were... The Gauntlet was in there, right? The Gauntlet was in there. How does Thanos get it?
Loki. In Dark World,
Where was the gauntlet?
It was
in Asgard.
In the hall of
It
something.
was in the hall where they got where the ether was stolen.
Oh.
Asgard was guarding it, and remember at the end of
time.
spoiler alert for Thor: Dark World.
Spoiler alert for everything. If you're watching an Age of Ultron podcast, there's going to be spoiler alerts for
Yeah.
everything.
That's true.
If you haven't seen anything up to this
If
point,
you haven't seen Age of
stop
Ultron,
listening right
yeah.
now.
Especially
Turn it
Age of
off.
Ultron.
Stop listening.
If you haven't seen the Marvel movies, why are you listening to the podcast?
That's
like,
true.
This is
Yeah.
basically
Don't be dumb.
everything that's happened so far until we talk about something else.
Yeah. So, Thor: Dark World. At the end of Thor: Dark World, we think Odin's dead, and
Right.
Loki is pretending to be Odin.
Right, that's still a thing.
Right.
That
Right.
has not changed.
That's where Thanos gets the Infinity Gauntlet.
Got it.
Loki is
That's
still.
true. He's still Odin
Does it happen in the
comic book.
movies, or is that just your...
I'm just assuming because
Well-educated.
the thing that's pushing it up and stuff like that is the thing in Asgard. Like the thing that was holding the Infinity Gauntlet is a thing from
So
Asgard.
that was really more of a big thing at the end. The fact that how the crap did Thanos even get the gauntlet?
Yes.
It's the
More
fact
than
that
it was
Thanos
that
has
Thanos-
stepped into continuity.
Yeah.
Right.
Because so far
gonna
he's
take
been
care of
this,
it,
like,
it's
space guy out of everything.
Yeah.
fine. Right.
So if that is in Asgard, then Thor becomes relevant very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great because I feel like, as much as like we were talking about at lunch, about
We had lunch at Jesse's Burritos.
yeah, and we talked a lot about.
It's really good.
So we're trying to
Get their
hopefully
Oscar.
talk about everything that we talked about at lunch, but how Marvel treats their stars, and how they sign the contracts, the way they pay their stars and everything. Like, despite all of that, of how they make them sign these huge commitment contracts, like, they do take care of their people really well.
Right.
They
They wouldn't be able to do this if they didn't take care of their
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Like, how do you approach a movie star and say, hey,
We want you to do 6 movies for a small amount of money.
and we're also going to put you in movies where you're not the star.
Right.
You're going to be playing not a bit role, but a smaller role for a bigger character, i.e.
Yeah.
Scarlet, dang it, Black Widow.
I know.
Or
you're doing that.
or Chris Evans' appearance in Thor too. Even that, like, that was one of his appearances
He's
from his contract.
Well, it was Loki dressed.
But
like
no,
a
Captain
dude.
America, the actor Chris
Oh,
Evans,
I thought you
Right.
said Chris
it was
Hemsworth, I'm
only
sorry.
like 5 seconds.
Right.
But
he
they
was
had to get
yeah.
that
That was
cameoed.
Yeah.
that was one of his appearances.
Right, and he had to shave. He apparently likes having a beard, so
I like him with a beard.
I like him with a beard too.
A bearded Steve Rogers would be cool.
No.
I would look odd with the mask. I
Have you
keep
ever seen
wondering why he
bearded
took
Thor
it
with the
off.
mask
No,
in the comic books? Looks dumb.
really.
Yeah, definitely.
What were you saying?
I kept wondering why he took it off.
The
The
helmet.
mask?
Yeah, he
Because
constantly took
it's
it
a
off.
Hollywood movie.
Mhm.
I
And
feel like it's just like it's more of a helmet. than it is a mask.
I think it's nothing more than the Hollywood machine of just we need our stars' faces plastered everywhere. Why did Thor take his shirt off to go into the reflection pool? Because people want to see Thor without his shirt.
I'm pretty sure he didn't have anything on in the pool.
Exactly. So there you go.
Well, probably because
Why didn't Scarlet Witch... Dang it.
Why does Scarlet Witch have cleavage at the very end?
When
why
she's
why
crying?
does Black Widow have cleavage when she's talking to the Hulk the second time?
Why?
Like her thing progressively
Right.
unzipped.
Why did... I noticed this at the beginning of the movie, and she does this every time. I'm going to see if I can describe it and do it at the same time, where she runs and she slides in this crouched position and then flips her hair back, and she has her back like this pose here happens every movie.
And
like
I noticed
she lands
when
on
they
the ground
showed
like
her
this,
in
flips her
Iron
hair up
Man's-
and poops her boobs.
Poops her
Poops her boobs out. Yeah.
I thought it was extremely noticeable when she in Iron Man's vision. I was like, good lord!
Oh yeah, like they pan down and it's just like ding ding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's just
her
like-
head was barely like, I'm not even looking at her face anymore.
I didn't know she had a face. So starting with Scarlet Witch, what happened with Scarlet Witch and Black Widow?
So the plan is to talk
Okay, I was
about
gonna say,
we want to
do
talk.
we really wanna talk about
we're
Scarlet
we're gonna break down every character and what happened in them. So if you haven't seen Age of Ultron, you need to stop listening.
If you haven't
to this.
seen Age of Ultron, you need to like reevaluate your things. Like, why are you listening to a podcast about Age of Ultron?
Yeah,
If you
that's
haven't
true.
seen Age of Ultron, like, what do you do with your life? Do you spend your whole time just listening to podcasts about things that are really cool so you have knowledge about it instead of actually enjoying the true product? Because that's really dumb, and you may sound smart on the internet, but you're not living your life. Right?
So live your life.
Are you talking about yourself, Shane?
No!
He's seen it.
I just mean for other things.
Okay, no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, besides, like, everything but, like, Avengers movies and Marvel continuity, yeah, I do that,
Yeah.
but...
Okay, since,
So
Black
we're
Widow
just
is
talk
your
about Black
first one.
Widow.
What was it?
Black Widow was the first.
boobs.
Poop your boobs.
Okay.
Poop your boobs. Yep. So Black Widow. I think this will have the least amount of bleeps because I feel like Oscar is our
Yeah.
bleep king, which
Do we
is cool.
poop? Do we bleep poop?
No.
Can we replace bleeps with the word poop?
So like the last episode, like
poops,
yeah,
poops,
when Oscar's saying, yeah,
Poops fingers.
poops fingers. Yeah. Anyway, so Scarlet
Black
Widow.
Widow. If we say Scarlet Witch,
We've
we
already
mean
discussed.
if we say
If we say Scarlet Witch, dang it.
If we went for-
we're talking about Black Widow.
Yeah. Scarlet Witch, dang it. Black Widow, okay. So in
We've
Black
already discussed
Widow,
the
her whole story arc throughout most of it.
this is Black Widow's sequel to Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
yeah.
like,
what
they
We
built
find out
on
more
with
about
Winter
Black
Soldier.
Widow in this episode, in this movie, and I think that's what people are wanting. People are wanting to know more about her, and aside from giving, like, I don't think she is. I'm gonna say this, and a lot of people are gonna get pissed about it. I don't think she's interesting enough to make her own movie. I think her character, there's enough there for her for us to like enjoy her in other films, but for her to have her own film, I feel like would be a waste.
Because she's supposed to be like a stalwart. She's supposed to be the strong, independent character, and what they risked doing then is doing what they did with Wolverine. Because Black Widow is the best at what she does, and what she does isn't nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best part about Black Widow. As soon as you're like, oh, here is like a huge spiel of her origin story. Her name's actually, what was his stupid name in the comic books?
Oh, Logan.
No, they gave Wolverine a real
John.
name.
John.
No, it's stupider than that. It's some. I'm gonna look it up. But anyway,
Odoroko Saki?
maybe.
No, that was the guy from Ninja
Al-Hassim?
Turtles. Odoroko Saki was Splinter.
But
Oh.
what they did well and what they risked doing with the backstory was ruining her character. If you give her those motivations
Mm-hmm.
and you give her that backstory, it dilutes her a little bit.
Oh, so you mean like from the X-Men Origins film?
I mean, it's what X-Men Origins is based on.
Okay, I thought you were saying like if Black Widow got
James Howlett.
James
Howlett. How stupid of a name is that?
They put
James
Howl in it on purpose.
Howlett. Like, if they give Black Widow a name, I automatically... Well, they do have... She has a name.
She
Natasha
does already
Romanoff.
have a
Natasha
name,
Romanoff.
though.
But anyway,
Yeah.
if they give her that big
I think it's actually
backstory-
Natalia Romanov, and then she goes by Natasha.
I don't know.
I
man.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't really know her character very well. I just feel like Avengers 1 and Avengers 2, both times they had to, like, give her this almost love story, like with Hawkeye. They almost gave her this love story with...
It wasn't a love story in Avengers.
No.
I feel like they were pushing it. That's what I thought it was. I thought
They're
they
bros.
were pushing for it.
Yeah.
Black Widow and Hawkeye are bros.
Like, and Age of Ultron proved that.
Right.
It made it more...
Do bros give
solidified
other
it.
bros a necklace with their symbol on it?
Yeah, they're best friends.
That's weird.
How is it weird?
How do you not think his wife would think, like, that's kind of odd? Like, or does she even know that there's this deep
we're guys.
friendship?
LeeAnne's a girl for anybody listening. So we didn't think that at all. I didn't even register the necklace.
I thought about it in Winter Soldier, I did.
But LeeAnne, she saw a different movie than we did.
Yeah, like maybe we'd
When it
poll
comes down
people
to
and see,
it.
like, did most guys think, no, that wasn't. They were just best
Oh,
friends.
I'll say in Avengers, I did think, that would be... That's... If they did a movie, I would want it to be a Hawkeye Black Widow movie.
But not romance.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so more about Black Widow.
Sorry.
And
So yeah,
Avengers.
Black Widow, they talk about...
Her past gets unlocked from her brain
Mhm.
because of Scarlet Witch, who we'll get to later.
Yeah.
And in her past, she was a ballerina assassin.
Yeah. I think that was the cover-up for that organization.
Yeah, but who were those girls watching the ballerinas?
They were young, like... I
Like,
think young.
why does your
going
cover-up
to be
involve bringing in more people? That'd be a dumb cover-up.
What do you mean?
Like, they're using the ballet school as a cover-up for, like, an assassin school.
All of the ballerinas were
Oh, they were trying to
going
be
to be
assassins?
assassins.
Yeah.
They used ballet to... And she said, you're going to break them. Like, they use ballet to create perfection. Like, like the grace that... And, like, kind of like this flowiness that Black
Right.
Widow has in her combat. She
Right.
gets that from
And the
ballet.
Poopiness.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. The agility, the flexibility, all of that comes from ballet. And so I think they use... And they're in Russia. In Russia, Stanislavski... Like, ballet is a huge thing in Russia.
That's true.
So, like, they use that as a means to train. And they say, well, we're only breaking the breakable ones. The ones who can withstand this will move on and go and
So is, like, that what she feared most? That
the ballet or
was
being
the
broken?
past, or what? I mean, because Scarlet Witch brought that up about, like, that's what Iron Man fears the most. That's what Tony Stark fears most. He fears destroying the world and not being able to save it, or his legacy being not what he wants. So is that the same with everybody else when she shows them their visions? Is it, like, what they fear the most? So does she fear people knowing about
She
that? Or?
fears not being a woman.
Okay,
I think
could see-
because
yeah.
ballet is a very feminine art.
Right.
Like, as much as men do it, it's a very feminine art.
Yeah.
And so they almost twisted this really adolescent, like, your first, like, foray into skirts and tights and all this feminine thing. They distorted it, and then they took away her womanhood.
Yeah, they took it away.
And so...
Yeah.
And that's really important, and we're going to get to that in just, like, a minute. But
Yeah.
yeah, and so I think she feared that because she fears not being a woman anymore.
Yeah. I think...
She fears being a monster.
Right.
Yeah. And that plays into the next person with Hulk.
Which
'Cause-
they had a really strong duality throughout this film.
I think the reason that
Black Widow.
Black Widow, it was so drawn to Hulk, or to Bruce, is that she sees someone who has the ability to be a monster, but also be human.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's living vicariously through Bruce, because Bruce maybe has more control. It doesn't seem like it. She thinks he does.
And he has an obvious visibility to where it's different. She
Right.
doesn't.
Black Widow's base is the monster. She lives her life as the monster and tries not to let the woman slip. Her Hulk is being a woman.
I like that.
I really like that.
And
yeah.
so that's the balance. She's exactly the same as the Hulk, but in just
a
her
different
own way.
And that's when she said, that's what she's talking about when she's asked Nick at the end of the movie. She says, when you had me go get him, did you know all of this? Did you know all this would happen?
Yeah.
It had nothing to do. I mean, it did have to do with everything else, but I think she meant her infatuation with Bruce. Did Nick know that would happen?
Right.
And did he think it'd be good for her?
Right.
Because he cares about them. He said that.
And so that's what Bruce Banner realizes, is that when she's telling him the lullaby, she's becoming the monster for him. and that's why he has to leave.
Yeah.
So we need to like lead up to that.
Right,
We haven't
sure.
talked about it at all.
Yeah, so Hulk, all of the characters so far we've mentioned, they all appear first 5 minutes of the movie.
Right. It opens with the Avengers, which I thought was a very smart choice. That was weird. We like.
Mhm.
had the
Well,
same-
And they did like that slow-mo shot that they show in the trailer, like in the first 5 minutes.
where it shows all,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you're like,
and
oh, that's
and real
awesome.
interestingly though, LeeAnne is saying this. And I think you'd appreciate some of the last episode of Shield. If you want to watch it, you can. But at the end of Shield, like it ends with Coulson talking to Maria
Maria
Hill
Hill.
and saying Theta Protocol is the Avengers.
Avengers.
It's the Avenger Initiative, and so he says, "Call the Avengers." They're about to rush
yeah,
Strucker
they found
in
out
the
where
show.
List and Strucker are.
They're about to rush Strucker, so instead of sending the Shield agents like they were wanting to, they're sending the
Huh.
Avengers.
Yeah.
And so
Huh.
Avengers takes off immediately after Shield ends.
Huh.
And so, but yeah, they show all of the characters, and Hulk is there, and he's fighting, and it seems like Hulk is where we see him in the comics, which is he's kind of like Hulk is sold out to the cause as much as Banner is, because they're
Right.
two different people.
Right.
So the Hulk is part of the team, and he believes that he's part of the team.
Right.
And so he's
But they do only use him when it's absolutely necessary,
Right.
hence the code green.
because it's always like a crapshoot of whether or not he's going to flip,
Right.
which happens later in
Right.
the movie, So, but yeah, it starts off with the first thing we see is
Black Widow.
we could just
Widow,
bleep.
like doing that whole lullaby thing of.
So we
like,
could say like Scarlet. That's how we can keep ourselves from saying it.
but they use the lullaby thing, yeah. But like with Hulk and Black Widow, of how like that was the smallest like plot point
Right.
in the whole movie.
And
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought it was unnecessary because I felt it led to nothing.
So there's a moment where they're so during this raid, what they're doing in the raid is they're trying to reacquire the scepter
Right, Loki.
that Loki used during the Avengers.
Yeah.
And so they acquire it and they're like, okay, we're going to throw a party because we acquired it. That's
Right, we've accomplished our mission.
we're
and then,
glossing over a lot, but then they have a party, and during this party, for some reason, Black Widow is the barista, and her and Banner, which is the only forced part, I think, of the whole thing, Banner approaches her, which I don't think he would have.
Yeah.
His character wouldn't approach her, but he approaches her regardless, and she has a moment of really, she lets down her guard, and they flirt.
And it was awkward
It was
for
awkward
both of them.
Well, I missed everything.
No,
'cause
she
I was
doesn't
thinking
know
about
how
the
to
scene.
flirt
Okay.
in that, like, legitimately. She knows how to use that to
Well, she
get
created
to
a
somebody.
character to flirt.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And so, yeah, they flirt, and it really opens up this relationship. Or it starts opening up this idea of a relationship. But what had happened before that, and so they get the scepter and everything, Banner starts assisting Stark, because Stark has an idea for what to do with the scepter. Well, what they were doing was they were creating Ultron.
yeah.
And
Right. Stark had been wanting to do that for a long time.
right, but what I thought was important about Banner in that situation was it really established that, and they called themselves that, it established that mad scientist dynamic.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Was Bruce Banner really became a foil for Tony Stark in this movie, and I think it worked really well.
Yeah.
I feel like it did kind of show also, like, how progressive that Tony Stark is and how, like, nervous Bruce Banner is about being that progressive. You know, like, he had to take convincing both times, you know, even though it had already happened once and it had not worked out the way they wanted. But, like, I feel like Bruce was like, I don't think we should do this. But, like, I think the scientist in him is like, we
He really
have to do
wanted
this,
to.
though. Like, this is the way we have to go to survive. Otherwise,
Well, and you know
we
what?
won't.
You know where that comes from.
The very
The
beginning.
very beginning of his origin.
Both
Yeah.
of their origins.
Cause,
And
like,
oranges.
Because Banner, the whole thing was he was experimenting with something unknown,
Right.
and it gave him this curse that he
Yeah.
doesn't want to have. You know?
It's another dichotomy, because Hulk Banner was experimenting with something he didn't know, and he ended up creating a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man, Tony Stark experimented with something he didn't know, and it saved his life.
Yeah.
And so every time that Banner is taking an initiative, he destroys something. Every time Tony Stark creates an initiative, he makes something better. He makes renewable energy.
Yeah.
I mean, he does all these things.
So it switched in this movie.
It did switch. Iron Man created something and it destroyed. It was
Yeah,
destructive.
because it was more metal, more like.
And so that
than it
makes
was-
Banner really important because he knew what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so,
At the risk of time, let's talk moments, and then we can
Okay.
expand off those.
Too much.
Well, no, like characters and the moments that were like
Okay.
pivotal for them. Hulkbuster, the Hulkbuster fight
Right.
was pivotal
right,
for Hulk
right.
and for Banner, and he says that in the scene that you didn't catch it the first time, but then you did.
Right.
Like that was who Hulk really is, who Hulk has the capacity to be, and that
Right.
fight was just awesome.
Right.
It was.
Yeah, the Hulkbuster fight, which he calls Veronica, which I read because in Archie Comics,
Mm-hmm.
is it Beth or Betsy and Veronica?
It's Betsy and Veronica, yeah.
So, Whedon said he did that because Banner had a love interest named Betsy.
Right.
And so that's why Hulkbuster is named Veronica.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so
Wow.
I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, the Hulkbuster fight was really well done, and I think that's something that Whedon has that nobody's got yet, is the ability to coordinate a super fight.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen another movie that does it that well.
With like a bit like super like powered people.
Yeah, so,
'Cause,
like
like-
literally superhero fight.
Because like the Russos did amazing with
Right, but
Winter
it's
Soldier
Dark
and
Knight level.
Captain
It's
America.
you know, kind of
It's
more
not
human.
it's not street level, but it's not like flying around destroying crap
Right.
level.
Batman level.
Yeah.
And so I think that he does that really well, and I just thought it was a really
Well, and it was little moments, like there was a moment where it cuts to a shot of Hulk, and it looks like Hulk was wearing one of those vests that has the face cameras.
yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
It looked like there was like, and so like they made
A
No, that
steady
was really
cam
cool.
is what it's
I
called.
like that.
yeah, they made the CG characters as if they were actual, like they weren't
Yeah.
a CG character.
Right.
They did it also with Ultron when Pietro's talking about his parents. They cut to a good like 10-second scene of Ultron looking at Pietro telling
I
the
noticed
story.
that. They did show...
And it's like you don't have to cut it. You could have saved like,
Right.
$5,000 and not done that. You know?
Right.
But they did
I noticed
because
that too.
they made him a character like that wasn't a CG character.
Right.
He was an actual. He existed in more than just the script. He existed in the world,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a post-production thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very...
So, but yeah, the Hulkbuster. The thing I liked about the fight was of the funny parts that were kind of. And Whedon knows how to do that. Sprinkle these like humorous things.
Yeah, it's Mal from Firefly.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it is.
like
It's a serious
you
character
know,
that throws in bits
the
of
punching
silliness.
into the street with the
Yes.
the pulsar fist.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that was hilarious.
Go to
Right.
sleep.
Yeah, and I loved when he said, "You're smarter, you're stronger, you're whatever, you're Bruce Banner." And Hulk freaks out. He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, don't mention puny Banner." Like that's a line that Hulk would have said
Right.
if Hulk talked.
Right. That
It's-
was really
it's beautiful.
nice. And but it doesn't pull away.
Right.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing that he's done really well, this being Whedon. Really, Marvel has done really well, because it's definitely a house. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
just one dude doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that moment is still pretty early in the movie. So let's move to like a moment that has more characters.
I'll
that
say
we
a
can
moment I
discuss.
didn't like.
I still want to go through each character. I'm just thinking of like key
Oh.
moments.
Or
I thought we were going moments now.
I find Hulk interesting, because the thing I liked the least about the whole thing was when he hopped into Ultron's car and yanked him out. Because it's the same thing that happened in Avengers.
With Loki.
But then I have the thought, realistically, Hulk is the big player. He is the biggest player. Like, Ron will beat anything. Arguably. So far that they've established a continuity, save Scarlet Witch a little bit. Like, I just don't, like, Hulk is so interesting because he's always going to be able to end it. When it comes down to one person, like one person versus the Hulk, there's nobody. Right?
What about Vision?
I don't know, because I haven't seen them fight.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about
Vision
that.
with the mind gem.
Yeah, or Scarlet Witch.
Whatever.
Right. But, I mean, the villain. So Loki or
right, villains,
Ultron.
Definitely.
If it was like, even if it was Hulk versus all of those Ultron bots.
Right, he still would have won.
He'd still win. And
Yeah.
so Hulk's the interesting character because I think he'd win. And so I don't like that moment when he pulls him out of this spaceship thing, but then I do.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Ultron had not gotten in the helicopter and shot a bunch, would the lullaby have worked, and would Bruce have just gone... Like, what made him decide to all of a sudden...
He decided when they were in the bedroom.
Okay, so... But when she walked up, what would he have done? Just ran away?
I think that moment would have happened. I think it would have happened either way.
He would have
If
run
Bruce
after...
Banner thinks of an idea, does the Hulk still have that idea?
I think it's in his, like...
Subconscious?
core.
I think it's not the same, but it's similar to Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze.
I think it's similar to having sex. I think the Hulk is an orgasm. Right? Like, you still exist when you're having an orgasm, but you're not doing anything except having that orgasm. There's a Jim Carrey bit where an orgasm is the most pleasurable thing you can ever happen because nothing is in your head during that moment. Like, you're like, I'm worried about my taxes. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to make rent? Like, did I feed the cat and everything? As soon as you have it, nothing. And it comes back immediately, right? But
Yeah.
I think up to that point... So
he's
the third
thinking about
parallel.
nothing?
You have the Hulk that is the epitome of an orgasm, the epitome of sex, which usually leads to having a kid. Banner can't have a kid at all. So there's this... Like... Maybe that's all the Hulk is. It's just gamma-radiated sexual tension, right? Right?
I don't know.
Anyway, the original question is, it's like an orgasm. The Hulk is an orgasm. So, the Hulk's not thinking anything, but it doesn't take much to pull him back. Like,
Okay.
it took him seeing all those people... Like, he would have turned, maybe, if the Hulkbuster hadn't punched him.
Right.
Like, he was seeing all
Or
those
then
people.
shot at him.
Right.
He saw the people with the guns and stuff.
Right. And so yeah, I think Banner's still in there. And I think now Banner's definitely in there.
Yeah.
That's what they were alluding to with him sitting cross-legged. Because
Yeah,
the
in
Hulk
the
has found
jet.
his Zen now.
Right,
And
where
so-
Bruce Banner had found his Zen, now Hulk has found
Right.
his Zen.
Hulk's at peace because he made a decision to save people.
Well, and do you think that Bruce, then they both came to an agreement, Hulk and Bruce, to stay Hulk? Because it was inevitable anyway.
The
That's why
inevitable Hulk.
Like, it was, because, I mean, in Planet Hulk, does he ever revert back to Bruce Banner? Twice.
Right.
Out of how many comics and how long
yeah,
the story,
out of like
right?
10 issues,
See?
right.
So, like...
And it's very big moments. Like,
Yeah.
it's something like he doesn't want to do at all.
Right. So, you know, maybe it's one of those things where Bruce is like, this is who I really am.
Right.
No matter what, like, I can't have kids, I can't do this, I can't do that. This is who I am. The
Right.
same way that Scarlet
Black Widow.
Scarlett Johansson.
Black Widow.
That's it.
That's
That's
why
the
it-
whole reason.
Yes. Yeah.
Holy
that's why
crap.
it
Yeah.
does that.
Black Widow,
Yeah, Black Olsen. That's why we get him to right?
Black Widow,
She figures that you're saying she figures out. She has the same thing that happens to Hulk, is what you're saying.
like, she has to stay who she...
Hence her pushing him and saying,
Yeah.
I need the other guy. Like,
Yeah.
she wanted so badly to run away with him, but she knew that that was not the mission. She
Mhm.
had to keep... And that's why she said, that's the only thing, whenever she tells him that she's sterile, she's like, that's the only thing that could be more important than the mission. It even makes killing people easier. You know,
Mhm.
so that was, like... Even she knew that even though she wanted this relationship with him, at that
Mhm.
point when there was an opportunity to run away and things would probably still work out and be okay, that's when she was like, you know what, the mission is still more important.
Yeah.
So is this Oedipal? She tells him a lullaby, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of motherly, I guess.
And he is a very insecure, he is the child of that relationship, really.
Yeah.
Very
It could
mature,
be.
very young.
Well, and she wants to be a mom.
Right. So she's
the only thing she
adopting
can't have.
Banner.
Mhm.
And I think she falls in love with Hulk. really. Because there's a
Maybe.
moment.
So it'd be an
Yeah.
Oedipal complex for him.
Right.
That's interesting. Well, we've got
He
10
need-
minutes.
He needs a mom, she needs a monster.
Yeah.
But
So, Tony Stark.
coming in, I thought that he was going to be the crux. And he pretty much was, I think. He was the crux from a plot standpoint. From the movie standpoint, he wasn't.
Well, he created your main character. So.
Right, on paper, he's the crux. But outside of it. So, yeah. But I thought it was really well done.
Thanks.
How it's... And I didn't get this again until the second viewing. But he
I gave you
created
the
Ultron.
Batman cut because I thought you would want it more than Spider-Man.
Yeah. I thought it was really well done how he had the vision for... he had Scarlet Witch's, like, thing first.
Mhm.
And so they're mad at him because they don't realize, like, how manipulated his mind got.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, I seen her.
given what he saw, it completely is justified to try to make something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really well done.
Yeah.
I think it plays on Iron Man 3, too, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Legion, his little...
The
what-
Iron Legion.
Yeah, it stems right out of Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Like, it's just more suits of armor.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And I felt like a nerd because in the second viewing, when they were coming inside, like, the little, like, Avengers Tower, they weren't in order. And I feel like that was important. Like, I don't know which number Ultron was. But anyway. Like, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
But when they fly in, they don't fly in as
Yeah,
1,
4 was
2,
the
3,
last
4,
one.
and 5.
Yeah, 4 was the last one.
But, like, Stark's protocol would have them come in order.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I thought that was important, but I don't know how. But I thought it was really well done. Like, his Ultron stems from a really good place. But he didn't do anything wrong because he didn't realize the Mind Stone is an infinity gem. Like, you can't... Like, it is a computer. And that's what they built on Thor 2 as well. Like, Thor 2, there were really scientific moments. Like, when they're healing Jane and everything.
Right. They said there was that line in the trailer of Thor 2 where it says that you say science and magic are two different things, but where we're from, they're the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And so really the Infinity Gem is something that's scientific and you can break it down.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really well done. Like, it establishes the villain, kind of makes it Tony Stark's fault, but it's not really.
Yeah.
And so...
I do like that, because I feel like Scarlet Witch saw more than they gave to us in the movie.
That's the big question.
She knew that he would do all of that.
Right.
She knew, like, to read
So
someone's...
she sees in the future.
Well, she didn't,
I don't think
because when she first sees Ultron, she was like, wow, I knew it would be bad, but I didn't know it would lead to this.
Well, she never read Ultron.
She couldn't.
Well, right.
When she read Tony Stark, though, like, she knew...
She knew it would lead to destruction.
Yeah,
for
she
sure.
knew that
I
he
don't
would
think
just
she knew how.
like she said, he would self-destruct.
Right.
Like, that he would do something drastic.
Like,
Right.
he would pretty much make his vision come true.
Yeah.
Right. So
And maybe that's what it is. Maybe what she sees in their mind are elements of truth and elements of reality.
like, I think that will
Yeah.
be a scene in Infinity Wars.
Yeah.
I genuinely do.
Well, I think all fear stems from some inkling, some part of truth.
But we think the truth will stem from the fear.
Right. Where I think it would
Yeah.
work opposite almost.
I think it's
So-
both, but the big question is, do we see what Scarlet Witch sees? Do we see what Scarlet Witch sees? Do we see everything that the Avengers see? And what did we not see?
Right.
Like, those are really big questions with Scarlet Witch.
What I liked, and we compare Ultron with him because, like, they're pretty much the same person.
Right.
Ultron's an exaggerated version or a twisted version because this is where I think the line, and I had to remember it last night. I had to constantly remind myself. Tony Stark tells Banner, says, a metal suit all over the world. Right? He says,
Right.
that's why I want to create Ultron.
Right.
It's a metal suit all around the world.
Right.
What does Ultron say as the
He
island's
says,
calling us up? He says,
the Age of Metal or something.
yeah, he says the only thing left standing will be metal. Like Ultron, his own plan that he made, he was never really free.
Right.
He was, in a sense, like he was the fallen angel to Tony Stark's god.
And there were times that Tony Stark said that he did not think that Ultron was bad or wrong to make. Like, he still thought that it was good for him to be created.
Yeah.
It was just, he took it to a place of, well, the only way that there's going to be true peace is if there are no humans. You know, because Banner says that to Stark. He says that once you have a bouncer that won't let anyone in, the only thing that will make the world bad is the people in it. You know, so Ultron sees that and is like, well, if we have true peace, then we cannot have people.
Right.
You know, or at least not these people. We have to evolve and become, you know.
Yeah.
He probably would have just created a bunch of visions to be in the world, you know, instead. So I thought that was kind of cool that Tony Stark, like, even in the midst of Ultron like, wanting to just kill everybody, or even at that time they thought just kill the Avengers, he still was like, I don't think it was bad that we made him.
Yeah.
You know, we needed to do that. You know, and honestly, they kind of had to do that to bring about Vision.
Yeah.
Who really could maybe bring about peace-ish.
My favorite moments, honestly, with Iron Man were his back and forths with Rhodey.
Yeah. I'll hold it for you.
Yeah, I just love, and the hammer scene.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was fantastic.
It's so like that's what I loved about Iron Man 2 was the back and forth between Stark and Rhodey. Like, I get that some people didn't really like that movie. In fact, a lot of people didn't like that movie.
But those parts were good.
The stuff with War Machine and Iron Man together was amazing. And so when that shows up in the movie where they're fighting the robots, and War Machine shows up and is like, yes! Right. At least if it's just for, like, 2 minutes, them fighting together.
Yeah.
That's the timer.
That was our silent alarm.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was silent. So.
My favorite was the back and forth between Tony Stark and Banner.
Mm-hmm.
That very well may have been my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Especially the Vision interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something switched with Banner, and he just got sassy during that whole scene, and I adored it.
Yeah.
I adored it.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite scene.
The world trusts Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark. Like, when the basic community of people who watch these movies, they're always going to look at Robert Downey saying, is this good or is this bad?
Right.
And so they used him to help us, help soften the blow that those guys are not going to be around forever. They used him really well to do that. And it's like, yeah, it's true. Like, those guys are not going to be in the movies all the time.
Right.
Like, Robert Downey is 50 years old. So, like, let's say Infinity War, that's 2000...
You're filming in 16.
16, okay. A 60-year-old Tony Stark?
Right.
And granted, he looks great. I mean, he did look older, but he still looked good.
I thought he looked older in Iron Man 3 than he did in this one.
Which I think was intentional.
Yeah, I think they purposefully made him look older in Iron Man 3 and then kind of brought it back a little bit in.
Because it had nothing to do with age. It had to do with how tired he was.
Right.
Right, his mental tiredness.
So, yeah, I think that the whole
Buster that plays into Ultron.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tired. His goal is to end it.
I don't know if that was... You got something?
Minor prediction?
Huh?
Minor prediction?
Sure, go for it.
Bait and switch, Tony Stark's gonna die in Civil War.
Instead of Cap?
Yeah.
I would not
I don't know, man.
I feel like it would not affect Captain America as much as it would affect Iron Man.
Yep.
Because that's what I loved about the...
It's a left field prediction.
Because if Cap dies, he's a martyr.
So, Paul Rudd, come in our podcast and congratulate me.
Yes, please, Paul Rudd. Just...
Paul Rudd of That Funny Guy and a Lot of Stuff fame.
Romantic
have
movies,
you were great in Friends.
Honest. He was in Friends?
He was Phoebe's husband.
Oh, no way.
At the very end, yeah. Iron Man left at the end, which I think is a good choice. I don't think Iron Man will show up until
Civil War and then Infinity War. I don't think he'll be in any of the other films.
Cap, he wasn't.
Cap will be in Black Panther. Black Panther will be in Cap. That's for sure. He's cast. Black Panther is,
poor choice.
That was before they knew about Spider-Man. He was the Spider-Man character of that movie.
Yeah, they already had him. Because he was at the Marvel reveal of all the movies and the dates and stuff.
Yeah.
The new suit looked really good. It was really understated, but it was basically the Centurion, I think. Uh-huh. Thor played an important part when I thought he wouldn't at all.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done what they did with Thor. He basically Thored it for most of the first part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That he was quintessential in the Infinity Gem stuff, which, like I said, I think that's interesting. I think that tells us a lot about Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Because really, throughout this movie, Thor is the guy that knows. Like, he understands there's 6 Infinity Gems. 4, but, like, he's the one that brings up, we've already found 4, that means something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence we found
Well,
them
and
in the
note
last
like
4
in
years.
Avengers 1, he was also... He was the... I mean, he knew about Loki. He knew the things the Avengers didn't know.
Yeah.
He's like their informational superhighway.
Yeah. Which makes sense
Informational.
because he's the most Marvel-y guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's out there. He gets around, right?
One of my favorite scenes, it was really small, is when they're in Africa, which we'll get to that with Cap, but I'll mention it. But when they're in Africa, they and they're talking to Ultron, and it's Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor standing facing Ultron. Just the scene of them just standing there, like, it wasn't exaggerated, it was just a really quick scene, but it's like that is so comic book.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
it was so, because their colors just like,
right.
it was amazing, and I
Absolutely.
love that. And those are the 3 main guys, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
when you define the Avengers, it's those 3.
Well, it was Iron Man 2, Thor, First Avenger, then the Avengers.
Right.
Like, those were the 3 movies.
Yeah.
Like, I have that distinctly in my mind. It's
Yeah.
like, those 3, then Avengers.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hammer bit with Quicksilver was really funny. I like that.
Yeah. It was really smart how much they talked about the hammer. In
Yeah.
This episode.
Oh yeah. That's the best part about Thor was all the hammer talk.
Yeah, they had to build it up so that way when Vision actually hands it to him, it's kind of like,
Right.
oh, wow. Like, I mean, I still would have thought that because I know, like, the idea of the hammer, you know?
Right.
Like, oh, so Vision is Thor when he's holding it, technically.
Yeah.
Right.
Vision's the only one worthy to rule Asgard. He'd be
Right.
the only one.
Or
He's-
Captain America.
He's the yeah. Yeah.
What?
If you can nudge the hammer, you can lift the hammer. That's the theory. Steve Rogers was being humble.
Yeah.
He could rule Asgard. He will pick it up in Infinity Wars.
With the shield and hammer.
Yeah.
Has that happened in the comics?
Superman did it in when they had the big crossover.
JLA versus
Yeah.
Avengers.
There's a scene where Superman's holding the shield and the hammer, and I think
Yeah, I
they'll
remember that.
mimic that with
Really?
Captain America.
Ooh, that'd be awesome. It was weird. He does whatever he wants, like, because he's Thor. He's still
Right.
the Prince of Asgard.
I
and
mean,
so,
he
like,
straight up just leaves at
yeah,
one point.
yeah, he operates that way. Like, that's why when he comes in and he's like charging up his hammer to charge the
Cradle.
cradle for Vision. Like, everyone's trying to tell him no, but like he's not even like. At least Iron Man and Cap are like fighting about it, but nobody tried to fight Thor because they know it's Thor.
Right.
He's like, there's no way we're gonna stop this guy, and
Right.
he knows that, and that's
Right.
how he operates everywhere. You know, he's a god,
Right.
and he knows that, and he humbles himself to work with the Avengers. But at the same time, it's like he knows that he's
Wolverine.
superior.
Like, Wolverine is that for the X-Men.
Yeah,
Somebody that can come in, but if he's going to leave, nobody's going to stop him.
right. Thor was really good. Definitely. I think the thing we could say about Thor is we thought he wasn't going to be anything, and he wound up being almost everything.
The sequel to Age of Ultron will be Civil War. The prequel to Infinity Wars is going to be Ragnarok.
Really?
That's how I feel. Yeah, I feel like that Ragnarok is really going to lead up to Infinity Wars big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I do think so. I think Ragnarok will be. I think some of his vision that he had
Yeah.
with Scarlet Witch, I think that is going to happen in Ragnarok.
Right. I think all the visions are going to happen, except for Captain America's.
Yeah, his
Unless
was,
he's
like,
thrown into a parallel universe, which might happen.
I think the guys with the horns, the ones
Yeah.
that are in the shadows, those will be the guys that Thor has to deal with in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
They're the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And
I think the person in the hooded figure was Loki. They said that
really?
they filmed the Loki scene, but it was cut. I think that's where it would have happened, was
Really?
in his vision. I think
yeah,
Loki would have said
that
something.
cloaked guy was just looking at it for a second. It was like,
Yeah,
what
that
the
guy.
heck? Who is that?
I think that was Loki.
yeah. So Cap.
So Captain America was good. Let's get through this. He was good in the movie. He was.
Oh, yeah.
He was really good.
They established him as leader more so in this one than any other.
And I
movie.
liked that.
Right.
Because before, we were worried about that when Avengers came out. We
That
had
Iron Man
at
would
length
be the leader.
conversations that
Yeah.
Iron Man would be the leader.
Right.
And they joked about that.
Right.
In the
They
plane,
did
right?
that on purpose.
He's like, no, I'm not the leader. He's the leader.
Right.
I just provide
Pay for
everything, pay for
everything.
everything, make everybody look cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like, they did that for the audience.
Yeah.
They were like, no, stop saying that I'm the leader.
Right.
Right.
It's him.
Yeah.
And I think that's because Captain America is the perfect Avenger. Captain America is literally amalgamation of every Avenger. So, Iron Man. He is old. He has knowledge. He's really smart. And that's like a facet of Captain America, right? He's the weakest, which is why I started with him. You have Hulk, who is this superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
You have that facet. You have Hawkeye, who has leadership skills. Hawkeye and Black Widow had differences in this movie. Hawkeye has leadership skills, like Captain America. Black Widow knows how to fight, like Captain America. Thor is this weird guy from a different world that has a really strong accessory, right? Who am I missing?
Those are the main ones.
Those are the main
those are the
ones.
that were in the first
I
movie.
feel like I had a better thing for Iron Man, but I can't remember what it is right now. But if you push them all together, you get Captain America.
Yeah.
So Captain America's God complex comes from that. Like, that's the reason that he's going to have problems. He's going to realize, because Ultron says the only way that we can defeat everyone, he says it. He says the only way that
Yeah, we're going to defeat everyone is together.
is together. Everyone together is Captain America. Like, that's going to be the crux of Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that Captain America's Superman. He's what freaking Superman should be.
Mm-hmm.
Except he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So are you saying Chris Evans should be cast as the next Superman?
Good Lord, no.
No, yeah, she's right. He'd look great in the suit, but no.
I love him, but no.
No, I think he's the perfect Avenger.
Okay.
I think throughout this movie, he does everything that anyone else would have done. Like, I think he kind of has the ego of Iron Man. I think he has the ego of Iron Man. The dark side that he talks about is the ego that he keeps hidden.
Mm.
Because Captain America's a soldier, right?
Mm-hmm.
But soldiers are humans first, right? Like, soldiers have personalities.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't seen Captain America's personality.
I think it was that he does have an ego. The first Avenger, when he's the propaganda machine,
Yeah.
he's cocky.
He's Iron Man, really, during the first Avenger.
Yeah. It took something really bad to happen for him to finally become a soldier and actually fight.
Right.
And before that, he was this cocky, like, he was disconnected from the world. He didn't understand. Like,
Right.
he thought he understood his friends and his peers, but he didn't. He put himself above his people, his friends and his peers.
Right.
And then it took something really bad to bring him down to earth.
Exactly. So, if you put all the Avengers together, you get Captain America. When they put all the Avengers together, they got Vision.
Mm.
And so I think that's really important. I don't know why yet,
Yeah.
but I think that'll come into play, especially in Civil War.
Mm. The things I liked about Cap was when he ripped the tree stump,
Yes.
when they're arguing, they're cutting wood. That was, and we were talking about this at lunch. Like, I love when they do those moments where it's just a little thing, but it proves like how freaking strong he is. Like, when he throws the punching bag on his shoulder as if it were just a knapsack.
I mean, he held his own against Ultron.
Oh,
By
yeah.
himself, you know?
That was
So, like,
such a fun scene. He held his own, for sure. But he knew that he wouldn't win,
Right.
you know?
Like, 'cause when I think about, he held his own better than Thor, honestly. Because remember when they're in Slovakia, whatever place they're at, and Ultron's like, "Oh, Thor, you're making me mad," and they're fighting, and Thor's just trying to like wait until Vision gets up again to,
Right.
you know, like where Captain America, he went for a long while
Yeah.
against Ultron, you know, and so like I think that's showing like he really does have this strength that sometimes you forget. I feel like, you know, and so.
Thor
That-
was trying to get Ultron away from the drill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Thor was holding back because of where they were at geographically.
Yeah.
And he was waiting for Vision
Yeah.
to push him
That
away
was
from
an
it.
amazing scene. He's like, as long as there's air in my breast, I am running out of words. Are you
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah.
Like, it was so funny.
It was.
He was the most earthling part of Thor that
And
I'd
see,
ever
that's
seen.
what Marvel does, is they disarm Thor. They disarm these people who are they're able, and that's what Marvel's done since the comic books. Is they have superheroes. They have a literal god, but they bring them down to Earth.
Yeah.
And they make them really good characters. So you're not just sitting here. You don't have to have Superman destroy an entire town just to get the point across of how big the scope is.
Yeah.
They bring it down. The
Yeah.
scale is so much smaller with Marvel movies.
Yeah. It's big yet small.
Right.
Like Ant-Man. So Paul Rudd, you're the reason that Marvel is as good as it is, because you're the epitome of big and small at the same time.
I did think about how none of this really ever took place in New York City. Like, yeah, their tower is there, and they talked and whatnot and created things.
But none of
there
the
was never,
fight happened there.
Huge fights. You know, it was in Africa, or it
Sokovia.
was in Russia. You know, like it was always away from New York. And I wonder if they did that because of there's so many other characters now in New York that are in the MCU. Daredevil, Iron Fist, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, all of them are in the
Ant-Man.
same place. Yeah, so, like, if you continue to have more destruction there, you have to connect that because
Into the
people
movies.
are there.
Right.
That's
right?
true.
Like, so I wonder if
Yeah.
that was, like, because they have so many other things outside of movies that are connected to it.
Before Avengers,
like-
they could. Before
Right,
in Avengers
because
1, they
there was
could
nothing
do
else
that.
connected to it.
But now they have, roughly 15 different characters that are affected by New
Right.
York.
Okay, so they also haven't been to Antarctica. What superheroes are in Antarctica? They haven't been to South America. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Okay, I was like,
So Captain America, what else was there?
they should just always take the fight to Antarctica.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
no one lives there. I mean, maybe a couple hundred people, but
Well, that was a really interesting choice as far, like, everybody's motives was to get people out of it.
yeah.
And I don't
Every
think,
time.
I think that's something bigger. I think there's something to that. Because in the first one, they didn't care. Or they had no choice.
Right.
But
What if
they-
they play on that in Civil War? Like, hey, if people don't know who we
But
are,
Captain
we really
America
aren't
and
truly
Iron
protecting
Man-
them.
You have to realize,
Both.
at the end of Avengers, though, like everything post-Avengers, everyone's talking about the Battle of New York.
Right.
The clock tower, Grand Central Station, in front of Avengers, that statue of the fireman, in front of it, it's not a 9/11 statue. It's a Battle of New York statue.
Huh.
It says Battle of New York. It's
Huh.
talking about the firemen who helped
Yeah.
during the Avengers fight in the first movie. And so New York is drastically affected by the Avengers. And so Avengers are walking on eggshells in New York. Because there's a lot of people probably that are still mad about what happened in New York.
Right.
Daredevil talks about it. Like, they're rebuilding. Like, that's what Matt and Foggy are, like, or that's where their money's coming from, is all of this stuff that had happened, like all these different lawsuits, people being cheated out of their money because their buildings were destroyed, all this stuff. Like, so their main goal in Sokovia is to get the people out because they knew the mistake they made in New York. And the moment that really helped me kind of see their mindset was when Tony said, when he's talking about, like, anybody remember when I shot that nuke up into space? And he says, those were aliens. We can bust arms dealers all we want, but that's
Right,
A
the end
game.
of the line.
They
End
think,
game.
the Avengers don't even think they're the A game.
Right.
Everyone under the Avengers do, but they don't. They're not confident enough to know that they're the show, you know?
Which a small bit that justifies the name at that point.
Yeah.
I do feel like at that point is when you kind of got the split of the people because Iron Man, possibly, I feel like Thor and Black Widow were okay with just destroying Sokovia. They were
Yeah.
okay with it just obliterating to save the entire planet. Captain America, Hawkeye, they were not okay with that. They were like, no, we need, and I feel like that really showed your split.
Mhm.
of
And Scarlet
who-
Witch.
Yeah, of who, like, are we willing to let a few thousand people die for the sake of the planet, or are we gonna try and just save everyone, even if it means we all die? You know?
Civil War.
Yeah, that's where I feel
Iron
like
Man's
definitely Civil War we got.
Man's team is the Ozymandias of Watchmen, where Cap is the Rorschach.
Yeah.
You
Right.
wanna unload your theory before we take a break? The Cap theory.
I mean,
Parallel universe?
that's in the future.
Uh-huh.
Like that's in.
Oh.
I'll put that in the.
Okay. Was
I
there
think-
anything else Captain America you wanted to say?
No. I think
Hi.
I really like the blue costume though.
Yeah.
I wish they would have stuck with it. Honestly, the stealth costume from Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah.
It's a much better costume.
Yeah.
Much better costume.
Yeah. I want him to have external wings at some point.
I mean, it could happen.
Like maybe like there's a
the wings are like
no, like a flight helmet.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
that has the wings stick out.
Yeah.
Ooh. Then he'd look like Mario with the flying cap.
He would.
I think
No, they already did. Never mind.
the last thing with
Yeah,
that was
I
interesting, and
appreciate
then
it.
we can take a break and then talk about. And honestly, like if you're listening, we've talked about the people that you care about, but honestly, the new people
Are the important.
the best parts of the movie. In all honesty, and they did that intelligently. Like that was really, really smart of them. So anyway, the last thing I wanted to say about Cap that was interesting, and it introduces new people, so it's a good segue. Is the whole stuff with vibranium in Africa. Like, that was one of my favorite things, and I freaked out, and nobody else did in the theater, when they're trying to find someone who's associated with Ultron and Strucker, and they find that South African guy, Andy Serkis, who did an amazing job, as always, because he's Andy Serkis. But So Andy Serkis, if you want to come onto this podcast, you can. That would be awesome.
Andy Serkis, if you want to replace Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, go ahead.
If I can be honest, I'd rather have Andy Serkis come than Paul Rudd, and I love Paul Rudd.
Boom.
I yeah. I don't know if we'll ever get to that place, but so when they find the brand and Bruce is just like, what language is it? He's like, Wakanda, and I'm like, it's Wakandan, Bruce.
At that point, Jimmy's like,
it's Wakanda. Come on, man, you're Bruce Banner. You should know that. And I flipped out. I was like, it's Black Panther stuff. And I was so happy. And even like the vibranium, like that's all like actual. That's canon. Like, that's all comic book. Like, everybody knows vibranium comes from Wakanda.
Question, which part of Vision is vibranium? His entire body?
His whole body.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, his whole body is made out of, like, organic and vibranium hybrid material.
Right. Yeah, like, okay. So it's
So
not
it's a
pure...
mesh of the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ultron was made by all vibranium, which originally it was adamantium in the comics.
Right. Half of the people that watch that movie, I promise you, think vibranium is a thing in Wolverine's claws.
Yes.
I bet you most people thought they were going to see Wolverine instead of Black Panther.
Really?
A general audience, yeah. I definitely think
Well, because
so.
they said it's the strongest
They
metal.
don't know that.
Right.
They said it's the world's strongest metal, which is arguable. Which one is? Vibranium or
The
adamantium?
lightsaber cut through vibranium.
I think it cut through vibranium. I don't know if it could cut through adamantium.
What if they couldn't use the word
Them's fighting
adamantium
words.
because Fox
They
owned
couldn't.
that, so.
They couldn't.
Right.
But, like, vibranium is what Cap's shield is made of. And
know
Black
that
Panther,
they're
vibranium
both
is a thing.
Right.
So they had to find a way for Ultron to be made out of a stronger metal. So vibranium was the next best.
Right.
The guy who created Ultron is also the guy who created adamantium in the comics.
Huh.
They did an interview with him. His name's like Roy something.
Yeah, the band in Captain America's memory.
Yeah, it's that guy. He created both Ultron and adamantium.
Right.
All right, well, let's take a break, and then we'll...
come back and talk about the cool people.
Yeah, we'll talk about the cool people. This might be a 2-hour thing, but...
It's Age of Ultron, man.
So, we'll take a break.
I'll listen to this for 2 hours.
Just listen to this stuff, and then we'll come back and talk more about that. So, I'm going to pause it.
Bum, bum, bum. Hey.
So there's our episode. Well, not all of it. It's only part of it. That is part 1. What did you think? Things you disagreed with, things that you agreed with. Let's, in the words of Jessica Chobot and Nerdist, discuss. And if you... That was dumb. I'm sorry. I don't know. What do you think, though? Like, is it... What do you think? That's all I can ask. Like, this movie is so big, and I've been editing it forever, and I'm pulling my hair out because there's so much, and we still have a whole other episode to go through. So thank you for making it this far. We're only 3 episodes in, and we hope that more people will listen and more people will get involved and talk with us. And we love talking about comic books. We love talking about movies. We love talking about video games. Just anything nerdy, and we love those things, and we want to find people that love that too, and keep the conversation going. So what'd you think about Avengers Age of Ultron? What'd you think about the original characters? Let's kind of talk about that in this episode. In next episode we'll talk about the new ones, because that's what our episode will be. Next episode we'll lead in talking about Hawkeye and going through the end of the rest of the characters, all the new characters, what we think is going to happen with the new Avengers, and with the spoiler, and what we think is going to happen with Civil War a little bit. I don't remember if I cut it or not. So, what'd you think? Leave your comments and your likes on the YouTubes, and we will see you hopefully Friday. But if not, we will for sure see you on Wednesday with part 2 of our Avengers episode. Yeah. Golly, it's a bulky episode. Didn't realize it was going to be this long. So, I'm exhausted. We'll see you next week. Well, we won't see you. We actually won't even hear you. You get what I mean. Catch up next week. Bye. See ya.